William K. Black, author of the best-selling, wrote it 3-4 years ago, and it's a bestseller again because he predicted everything that was going to happen. The best way to rob a bank is to own one. Be sure and get that. Because if we don't turn this around, that's the big question, sir. If we don't turn this around and they just continue the Ponzi schemes that are now getting galactic in size, where is this leading us?
Well, you can already see where it's been leading, right? The savings and loan crisis, it was a miracle it was contained when it was, because the political pressure there was even more severe than you had here. But you turned out to have this incredibly brave regulator, Ed Gray, who took on his own administration, took on Wall Street, and succeeded brilliantly. But there's been nobody like that in this crisis. So you had the savings and loan at about $150 billion. Then you go over to Russia, and they tried out these ideas in Russian privatization, and it produced massive corruption and the rise of a few very, very rich multi-billionaires, many of them connected with organized crime.
The oligarchs.
The oligarchs. And when this happens, look what happens politically in reaction, right? You get dramatic political changes as people become infuriated. So where did they hit next? This was the Washington Consensus, was their phrase, that we knew how to run life, and it was the way Wall Street said. And so they did this through Latin America. And what did it produce there?
Argentina.
Well, 10 years of stagnation and incredible corruption and giveaways to the biggest, their version of Wall Street. And what has happened politically? Who's getting elected in Latin America? People that now intensely hate capitalism and America in reaction. Well, we didn't learn any of those lessons from any of those crises, so we are currently in this one, and this one is big enough that it's global, and it's going to be the most severe recession in the lives of anybody under the age of 80. We can't afford to repeat it, because you don't just repeat, as I've been trying to get across. When you don't fix it, it doesn't just repeat, it comes back much worse.
Okay, we're going to get to solutions in the final segment coming up in a moment. But Madoff, you talk about organized crime. It's now in the Times of London and the Associated Press. I'm sure you've seen it, that Cuomo's going after one of Madoff's managers, and they're saying they believe there's organized crime, drug money, laundering going on.
In all of the really big frauds, you're going to find the other thing we haven't talked about, and that is the role of the offshore stuff, right? Which is like UBS, we were talking at the giant Swiss bank, where very, very wealthy people evade taxes by putting their money in these tax havens, and that always leads to wide-scale corruption.
And doesn't it lead to selective enforcement, though? I mean, we see Geithner and all of them saying they're going to go after this, but then when you read the fine print, it's selectively, and that's what the Caymans and the Virgin Islands and the Swiss are saying. Is there any truth to that?
Well, that's certainly true, period. In other words, if you looked in the Bush administration was particularly terrible on this. It largely reoriented its enforcement against poor taxpayers and away from rich taxpayers. Actually, what we're trying to do on UBS might reverse that a bit. That would be good news.
We're going to come right back. I want to finish up with that. Yeah, that's right. I remember seeing the numbers where they took almost all the FBI agents off the billionaire swindlers and put them on blue collar and white collar, mid-level stuff. Just amazing. Talk about Fox running the hen house.